Hi guys, welcome back to the Endurance podcast. We've got Tim Podlogar as usual, and we've got a guest today, Marko Baloh. Was that about right to pronounce his name?
That was great. Yeah.
Right. I did practice beforehand. So we've got talk to Marko. He's an ultra endurance cyclist. I think it'd be best if he introduces himself, really, because there's lots of achievements that we can talk about.
Yeah, like you said, it's a lot. Yeah, probably I'm most known of my 10 RAAMs, which is quite a big number. One of 10 races across Americas. 8 of those were solo. 9 of those were solo, but 2 I didn't finish. Anyways, and I never won. In the general classification, I was second a couple of times, and I won the Masters the last time I did it. Otherwise, quite a few of the records. I'm not exactly sure which one still stands. So I don't want to brag too much. There was a lot. The thing I'm the most proud of, I guess, is I was the first one on a stand-up bike, on the normal bike, not the human-powered vehicle. Did 900 kilometers in 24 hours.
Wow.
Which was in 2010, so 13 years ago, quite a long time. And since then, it's been broken. I think that now there's been 4 or 5 guys that surpassed that. Strasser being the most, the one that stands out because he did more than 1,000 actually.
Wow,
which is kind of crazy. Yeah. So that's kind of it. I think I still have a 24-hour record, which would be, I don't want to lie. I think 26 hours and a half or something. So for 1,000 kilometers, did I say that? Yeah, 1,000 kilometers in 26 and a half. And I won quite a few of those smaller, if you can call them, ultra cycling races, like the Tour race around Switzerland, a couple of those in USA. A lot of 24-hour races, which is kind of which probably the ultra race I like the most because it doesn't include the sleep deprivation. I'm not I'm not one of the best in that area of it. That's why probably I haven't got the RAAM victory, because those guys, it was Jure first, Jure Robic, Slovenian guy, and then Strasse, they sleep 1 hour or less even. I think for Strasse it's 45 minutes a night, which I tried, but it doesn't work. You just slow down too much. So that's why I love 24-hour races, because you don't need to sleep and you can go quite fast. And I won quite a lot of those. Actually, I think three world championships, stuff like that. I still like to do that, and it's still one of the races I like the most. So I'm still doing that occasionally. Not as much as I used to, but still, a couple of times a year, I still like to get myself up to a race and try myself. And I can still. I think the last time I actually beat all the field was not that long ago, before COVID, so 2019.
And what made you get into the ultra endurance?
That's why I started with it, I guess. RAAM, that was the trigger. I mean, we were still younger, still racing, normal races, how do you call them? With Jure Robic, we were in the same team, and we watched the documentary. I think it was the Austrian guy, the first winner, Spielauer. It was 90-something, 92, 93. That was the documentary. It's shown on Slovenian TV, actually. And it kind of got us thinking about it, because, it was one of the things that I was known even in previous, the longer the race was, the better I did. So it was kind of something that I would be dreaming of. We didn't think that it was ever going to be possible. And then in 2000, there was a Slovenian guy, never a cyclist, who made it happen, actually got the sponsorship and actually finished it. Not the first time he did it, but the second time he did it. And then we kind of started working on it, doing the qualification and just wanted to do RAAM. That was the first. And then you kind of get stuck. It just gets into you. You have to love to cycle to be able to do that, actually. And it kind of stayed with me. And I'm still, I don't think I've retired yet from RAAM. The one thing that keeps me away every year is the budget. It's crazy. It's very expensive. So we'll see.
How do you go, like, when you decided, like, I'm going to do a RAAM? Like, how do you start thinking about training? Like, what was the first year like?
That was these are different times. Nowadays, we have internet, we have everything, and that was 2000 when we started thinking about it. And actually, I did the qualification. At that time, it was even hard to get qualified, because to get qualified, you had to either finish one of the races, which were all in USA, finish them inside, I think it was some 20% off behind the winner or something. There was some percentage there, and it was kind of expensive. It still is, but it was even more difficult that time. But it was possible to do it wherever you were. You have to have officials. So the officials for UMCA, the Ultra Cycling Marathon Association, and you had to do a certain amount of miles, which was 680, I think. Oh, no, that was kilometers, 680 kilometers. So 425 miles, I think. And when we started to look into it and, trying to get to UMCA and get the officials and everything. And then we set this course here in Slovenia, in Kostanjevica. And I was actually going also for the Slovenian record, which at that time was held by Primož Čerin. I don't know if I'm sure certain team knows him. It was one of the first Slovenian guys who actually made it in the pro. I did the Giro and the Tour de France a couple of times. And when he kind of retired, that was one of his things that he tried. He did the 24-hour record around Slovenia, something, and it was 700 kilometers or something, a little bit above, and I broke that, and so that qualified me. And then after you qualify, you get kind of an invitation from the organizer 3 years, because I think they know how hard it is to raise money. So after that, it was all into. I qualified in 2000. And I was really, really trying hard to raise the sponsorship in 2001, 2002, and it didn't look well. It was just not possible for me. I don't know, it just didn't happen. So that's why in 2002, I decided, I was training all the time and I was kind of prepared, I thought so. So I wanted to test myself somehow, and I decided to go for the World Championship 24-hour. I actually wanted to do it in 2001, long story. 2001, and our plane tickets were September 10th to 2001. So after 12, the day after, what happened. So it kind of didn't happen that year. Next year, it looked like bleak anyway. So I just said I will do something in Slovenia. I said my first world record, 12 hours. 12 hours on the outdoor track. Outdoor track. And that kind of got the media going. I don't know why. Before that, I did a couple of races in Austria and Swiss, and kind of did pretty well. Was on the podium all the time, but nobody noticed. But when I did this record, it was kind of funny to me, but it was in all newspapers. It was a big thing, Guinness record. So that got things turning around and got me some sponsorship. as far as your question was training, yeah, it was strange. I don't know. You just try to go longer and longer, but I never did more than 12 hours in training. I think that was my kind of peak, and then I just decided first for this the qualification. That was my first 24-hour experience, and my nutrition was it was way out. I mean, I had big trouble during the night. I had diarrhea. My mistake was I started really fast. Did 10 hours with the average of 35 plus kilometers an hour, which wasn't a big deal for me. And I kept kind of putting the calories in. I was kind of thought I was on it. I probably was, but then it was my first stop, my first break, kind of after 10, 11 hours. So to get ready for the night and everything, and I drank the whole bottle of it was called Gainer's Fuel 3000 with milk, a liter. I don't know, milk with those proteins and everything, and I kind of texted. I tried to finish it in I don't know, that sort of a break, and it just didn't mean it was a bad idea. At first, I couldn't eat for a couple of hours. Still, of course, I had to go on, and then it turned into a big diarrhea, so I had to stop 3-4 times that night. So it wasn't perfect, but you learn as you go. I don't know. It was learn by mistakes. But then you just get into it. I got some advisors. I mean, some guys who did the RAAM previously. The Austrian guy Herbert Meneder was really I'm not a good. I don't speak German well. So, but he speaks English. So he advised me a lot. And there was this Australian woman who also did really good. Cassandra Love. She won it 2 times, and she was actually top 3 overall. So she beat almost all the men. That was in 2001 or 2 or something. So got some advice. It was different than nowadays. There was no Facebook, no Twitter, nothing like that. But there was mails, and there was kind of some forums online that you could ask people about. And slowly and surely you learn about it. The most you learn is with trying, and just mistakes you do as you go.
Yeah. So how long would you say from when you first decided you wanted to do the RAAM before you were ready for it? Obviously, you said it took time to raise the sponsorship and everything.
Yeah.
In terms of feeling you were physically there and ready to do it, how much preparation do you think that?
I was always confident, probably too confident. That's the way rookies are usually. You try to learn. I read all the books I could get. I watched all the videos that were available. So it was, in theory, I kind of thought I have it. And when you kind of crunch the numbers, you get the previous RAAMs, and you got those numbers, and you kind of feel like in the last days of RAAM, everybody's crawling more. Even the winner, yeah, it's just slow. And you look at those numbers, and you think those guys are only going 25, 26 kilometers an hour. That's that's a recovery for me. I have to go really slow to go that slow. But then so before you do it the first time, you kind of think you have it, but then it's different beast when you try it. So I think physically I was prepared. I think 2 years into it, I think I was. But the first one, I really started well. Was in the lead for half a day. But there was just some sort of. My crew was also rookies. They also did some mistakes, so I lost the lead because we had to stop in the night, and there was no gas, and there was some silly mistakes that lost me a lead, but that doesn't matter. Then I was still in the top 3 for a long time, and then I started to feel that Actually, it was my heart that was. We were worried enough that my team called the ambulance, and I ended up in the hospital. That my first one was. So we actually ended up with the pulmonary embolism, which was pretty scary ending. And I wasn't sure if I'm coming back. I wasn't sure if I was going to. I was on blood thinners for half a year. It was pretty scary, but yeah, like I said before, I mean, it's kind of RAAM is it kind of gets into you. I mean, or you either you hate it or you love it, and I'm the one. I think I'm one of those who's grown to love it, and I just had to come back, and I come back often after that. Not the first year. Yeah, the first year was off because I was just in a bad shape.
Yeah.
Then this was 2003 was my first. 2004 was kind of half of it was still on those blood thinners and not training. And then the second half, I kind of felt I'm back. I can try, and I went to one of the legendary races in USA, Furnace Creek 508, which goes through Death Valley. It was a really big one, probably one of the biggest. I mean, that's shorter races, shorter than RAAM. And I won it actually quite convincingly, so that's what got me, going again. And then it's kind of repeats, it's every time you finish it, people ask you. And I think the first 3 or 4 races I finished, I said never again. And then after that, I became smarter. So when they ask me, I just say, don't ask me after the race. I don't know. And nowadays, I think I'm quite happy. If I never go again, I'm quite happy. I was always wanted to win it, but there was just guys stronger than me. Just accept it. And I know I gave my best. But I think if I can still make it, I might still do it. I don't know. But it's not the priority anymore, for me to do it. But it's just one of the things you kind of grow to love it, and it's when I miss it, it's just strange. It's hard to explain. It's a strange feeling when you miss it, when you're not there. I mean, even when I don't go, I'm actually the last couple of years I was there doing RAW. So that's the first part of RAAM, Race Across the West. They just started at the same time, maybe an hour before, then to RAAM. And you go on the same route, but you finish in Durango. So you just do the whole thing the same as RAAM riders, but finish after 1,400 kilometers. So it still kind of keeps me in touch, and I still kind of compare myself to those guys who do RAAM. And I can still hold my own, and I still won those RAWs, so those races across the West. So it's just kind of the thing that keeps my blood going still, thinking about it. And nowadays, for the last years, I've been coaching also mostly ultra cyclists. So I've had quite a lot of success with riders finishing RAAM under my training. So it gives you, probably yourself, it gives you a different kind of feeling.
Satisfaction.
When you help somebody else do it. Yeah.
I guess a lot of people who work up towards a really big challenge like the RAAM for you, probably something not quite as serious for most people I'm thinking of, but they kind of complete it, and then they go one of two ways. They either hook to it and they want to go and do another one and another one and another one, or okay, that's enough. I've had enough suffering of that. Go and do something different. And you obviously felt the latter of that.
Yeah, that was. Just how it is. I mean, you have, like I told you before, you have to love to ride your bike to be able to do it, and I still love it. I still do a lot of training. I just kind of in my blood. It's just hard to stop me down. So that's why I still do those couple of races a year, and not. I used to do probably 5, 6, 7 a year. Nowadays, just 2, maybe 3. But still while I'm still training, just having a goal is just different. It just keeps you on edge more. So it's just easier to train, and it's just different. So that keeps me. and it keeps me in the loop, with all the riders, with everything that's going on. So it's just something it's not what I do, but it's who I am, actually. Yeah.
Part of you kind of thing, yeah. So you mentioned you do sort of used to do 5, 6 a year. How long would you say it takes you to recover from doing a RAAM? I coached someone who rode his first Grand Tour this year, and it took him like probably literally months after that to feel recovered properly from it. I guess it's something similar to that. You're putting your body through so much the first time. Well, obviously your first time you ended up ill, but generally speaking.
RAAM is a different beast. If we just talk about the 24, so the shorter ones, the shorter races are either 24-hour races or around 500 milers. There are some a little bit longer, but that's also 24 to 48 hours mostly. So those short, now I can call them shorter ultra races. For guy experience, it doesn't take that long. I would say after a week, you can basically, 2 weeks, let's say 2 weeks, after 2 weeks, you can basically train back to normal, to what you did before. RAAM, it takes, I know, it's hard to explain. Actually, the wounds, you have all sorts of wounds down there normally, and those are the most painful ones. Those heal really fast. If you have saddle sores, the really bad ones, those go away in a couple of days. Actually, after some of my RAAMs, I was walking around with the donut shaped pillow after the race because I couldn't sit normally on the hard stool, whatever. And then there's every part of your body that touches bicycle, it hurts. So there's hands behind and feet. And hands take quite a while. Those are probably what's called the pulmonary nerve, the nerve here in the hand.
Yeah.
So those 2 fingers, the small and the second one, those are numb quite long. Actually for me now, after 10 RAAMs, it actually never goes completely back to normal. I can feel them really well, but after RAAM, probably I would say 3-4 months, you're without the feeling in those 4 fingers. And the feet is kind of painful, and I found a solution for that. I guess with the wear and tear, whatever you call it. I don't know. I have more than 800,000 kilometers in my 35 years or something of cycling. So it kind of became my Achilles because the pain in my feet was actually making it almost impossible for me to do the long riding. After 5-6 hours, there was so much pain that I couldn't stand it. It was just killing me. And then I found, I've heard about that solution years ago from a fellow RAAM cyclist, a Swiss guy, Danny. So it's midfoot clip position. I heard about it, and there's only one company. I guess now there's a couple, but there was only one in Europe that does those kind of shoes. You have to have some special shoes, and those shoes were so expensive that I never took it into consideration until it was so bad that I just said, "No, it's try that, or you just have to slow it down." Ultra cycling wise, and then I got those. It just changed completely. It's unbelievable how, the pain was just gone. So it's midfoot clip position. So it changes, the position changes. You can imagine.
Yeah.
So you go lower, you change position pretty much, but the power was actually, it was surprising. I didn't feel, after I got used to it, a couple of weeks, I could put the same power, It's a bit awkward, if on the really sharp turns, you kind of have to be careful.
You're sticking out further, yeah.
Sure, yeah. Otherwise, it just, that was the thing that helped me with that. So the feet pain. Otherwise, as far as the muscles, you probably asked me about that. I would say after RAAM a month, you're in pretty bad shape. I mean, you need at least a month to kind of get back to the normal feelings and normal pushing the similar power or something. And so it takes a long time. Yeah. So that's why, like you said, that some people want to come again. There's not many. There's not many that do more than one. I mean, and I can understand, even also financially and everything, and time-wise, it takes not just those 3 weeks for you and the crew, almost 10 people to help you with that. It just takes, at least a year, if not a couple of years before that, to get prepared, to get everything logistically. Yeah, so it's huge for every family, and I can understand, just when I would say 90% of people, when they finish it once, there are people who don't finish the first time, and of course most of them try it again.
Yeah,
because it's just a kick. I don't know. It's hard to explain. And nowadays, everything you talk about it, you kind of expect, but it's just when you do it yourself, it's just different. I don't know. It's hard to explain. So not many people decide to come back. But there's talking about the crew. There's probably underrated and part of the ultra cycling. Unfairly so, because without the crew you don't get to do it. I mean, there's not possible, and you need at least 6-person crew, which is doable. I did it. It's not perfect, but it can be done. But those guys are just your lifeline. When you're sleep deprived and exhausted, it just because I did it also in the crew, and I know how it is, and it's just so stressful. I'd 100% rather be cycling than crewing for RAAM rider, because it's just so much responsibility. You get this guy on the road in front of you, trying to help him, trying to feed him, to tell him where to go and keep him awake, and just very, very stressful. So I'm so grateful to those guys who are there with me, or who are still going to the races with me, because it's just really, really responsible task, and all of those guys are volunteers, and they like it, and a lot of them come back, like we're talking now. I mean, probably easier for the crew to come back, but those guys also get hooked, So I have this bunch of people that are always asking me, "Are you coming next year, because we want to go with you again?" And it's we owe them a lot. Those guys in the crew. And usually my wife is the crew chief, so I owe her the most, because without the support at home, it's just not happening for nobody.
And do they come back every year, the same support crew? I mean, I guess obviously your wife's
not the same. Not always the same. That's one thing that's hard, because it takes 3 weeks of vacation time. Those people nowadays, when we started, they were younger too. Nowadays, they all have jobs, and they all have families. So it's always like that a few of them come back, and they like to do it again. And we always have a couple of new ones, couple of rookies. And so it's always an interesting dynamic. I never had anybody who was sorry after the race that he went along. It's always an adventure, and those people always... it's not a vacation by any means. It's hard work, but it's an adventure also for them, So it's fortunately, I'm not known for my bad temper, so usually they kind of get to enjoy it a little bit more with me, because some when you're sleep deprived, you can be pretty nasty too. But not like that. That's which actually helps when you're recruiting. It helps for people to know that you're easy to go and to work for. So it helps a lot.
Did your sort of sleep strategy change over the years that you did it? Did you start off trying to do like the fast guys, just do an hour a night, and then realize you couldn't do that, or?
Yeah, I do that. at first you try. I mean, of course, when I was getting ready for it, preparing for it, you kind of try all different stuff at home in training, and try with really short sleep, some more, and then during the race I did so many that I tried a lot of different approaches, and it's just something you cannot train for. I mean, I've tried it, just probably it's genetic. I would say, I don't know, just doesn't work for me. I mean, I've tried with those short, with the 1 hour sleep, and it just slows you down so much that for me, I found out that I need more sleep, and then I can ride faster, and actually levels out to a degree, and you're more lucid. You kind of, I mean, I've never lost it all the way. Maybe the last, yeah, of course, I admit that the last part of RAAM, still after 10 times I did, it's still a little bit of a blur, because you just so sleep deprived that you actually, I don't remember much of it. But otherwise, so I'd rather have some with trying and trying myself. For me, it works. My best plan for sleeping in RAAM. The first night is not doable. First night you just skip because you're just so much adrenaline that I tried to sleep a couple of times. It just doesn't happen, doesn't help. So I usually skip the first night. We actually start in midday, so it doesn't mean 48 hours without sleep, but around 40 or something until the first sleep. So then I prefer to have a sleep just before the sunrise, which is the hardest part to stay awake. If you ever try, you'll see. Just I don't know why. It's even actually when the sun's out, it becomes a little bit even harder. I don't know. It's just the first. So that time at 5, 6, 7 a.m. works best for me. So I try to do 1 hour and a half. This is my big sleep. Usually 1 hour and a half, 2 hours max. And then as the race goes on, then I add power naps. And in the first, so the second, third, fourth day, usually I don't actually need those. In the last days, I think I had 4 or 5 a day. So this 1 hour and a half of sleep, and then whenever I was falling asleep on my bike, which happens, unfortunately, it just cruises it, or I can feel it, and I just say, let's pull over. You pull the car over, I go inside for 5, 10, 15 minutes max. And your brain gets to sleep, and it's kind of a trick that your brain feels it got its sleep, and you're actually okay for the next. Like I said, in the first days, it's not needed. Probably then it's every day a couple or more. So I think the last day, yeah, of the last RAAM, I did 4 power naps. Actually, whenever I was. Because it's dangerous, like I said before. It's just you're on the road. You don't want to fall asleep on the bike.
Were you falling asleep?
Actually, no. It was close a couple of times. Now I can laugh about it. It was only one time in those 10 RAAMs. Only one time that I really fell asleep, and I woke up from the shoulder. I woke up in the passing lane of the highway,
right.
Which was I was lucky. It was in the middle of the night, so there was nobody. Yeah, nobody. But the crew was my probably they had a heart attack, and myself included. So we stopped immediately when there was a space. That was the one thing, probably the most dangerous. And there were a couple of times that I remember crew waking me up just before I was getting off riding off the road, just so I had to unclip and just but I got it. I made it. It's kind of tricky, It's that's why what makes RAAM so, I don't know, one of a kind. That sleep deprivation contest, whatever you think about it. There was in 2006 there was a try, because the RAAM organizers know about it too, because there was a couple of casualties in those 40 years. I think only 2. So it's lucky, but not lucky for those guys. But they knew about it, and they wanted to make to make it more about cycling, less about sleep deprivation. So they made this, they call it Enduro RAAM, where you had to sleep for 40 hours. It was a mandatory sleep for 40 hours. It was kind of tricky, at that time. There was no GPSs yet, so it was hard. So, the way they made it happen was a bit tricky, so people kind of protested a lot. Had to stop at the time station because those times, it's, I don't know, for people who don't know, RAAM is 5,000 kilometers long, and from 70 to 120 kilometers, there's a time station. It doesn't have to be that somebody is on the spot, but there's just a spot where you have to call in. Even at that time, when we started, there was no cell phones yet, so there was actually every time station was on with the pay-in phone. Was around, so you had to call in. So and then you can continue. And so now I lost my thread. But you had to
sleep in there,
that year on every time station there was official actually, and you had to say now I'm going to sleep. They put in on the time on some sheet, there was a paper, there was 2006 I think, and you had to say I'm going to sleep, and then when you started again, you again stopped by the official. He told him I did my sleep. They put in the time, and you had to do 40 hours in the whole race. And so I think there's 50 some time stations. So it was a bit tricky because the thing that happened, sometimes you come to the time station thinking you don't need sleep, you kind of feel perfect, you just want to go, and you go along, and then after half an hour you're dead and want to go to sleep. And people who did that, this you had to, because when you need it, you have to have it, but then it didn't happen officially. So you kind of lost 1 hour or whatever, even half an hour. So there was a lot of uprise about it. Many people didn't like it. I loved it because like I told you, I don't do well on so little sleep. So I was kind of, that was one of the RAAMs I finished in Enduro. I finished second actually. But it didn't, the next, there was such a uprise that they had to make, this was an Enduro RAAM and there was a traditional, and people could choose. And it was kind of half-half. Half people chose Enduro, half people chose traditional. So I think it was about 35 of us, so 17, 18 was traditional, and half. Most of us, the fast guys like Kirk, Robic and me, we went for Enduro because the prize money was all in Enduro. That was a trick from organizer to get us going. Yeah, but the next year they kept it, and it was, I don't know about the prize money because I didn't do it actually next year, but there was only 1 or 2 guys who did Enduro, and everybody else did traditional because there was kind of, this is not the real RAAM. It's not there's a feel of it. I don't know, which I don't agree with personally, but that's what happened, and that's why it's still as it is. It's still a sleep deprivation. A big part of it. It's still about sleep deprivation. How can you manage that? There's another player. There was another race that I was so happy about doing it, Trans-Siberia, which is on my program for years now, but they did it 5 times already, 5 or 6 times, and it's double the length of RAAM, so 9,000 kilometers from Moscow to Vladivostok, and it's actually a stage race, so it's kind of fun when you think about it, and it was really well organized. People were raving about it. People who did it, it's a small number of people who did it, but still. And the stages are, I think the shortest was 300 kilometers. The longest was 1,400. But in between, you get to sleep in the hotels, actually, Holiday Inn and whatever you get. But so the faster, and it was kind of made like, so it was still doable for slower guys. So the faster guys got more sleep, got more rest in between. So it was really, well organized race, but then unfortunately COVID fucked it up. Sorry about my words. So for those 2 years that I'm already registered, paid half of the altitude, which is not that small. But first there was 2 years of COVID, and now 2 years of war. So I don't think is it ever going to happen again. But yeah, who knows? But that was one of the some guys thought about it, and they wanted to make it more about cycling, more about your speed on a bike, than more about on sleep deprivation, handling, whatever you call it. But yeah, unfortunately, something was something was against it. So we'll see if it ever happens again, but I don't see it in the near future, unfortunately.
And what do you what do you eat like on the bike? Like, how does nutrition look like for those like events? Like, you probably are not eating gels because you get fed up of them, or
yeah, you get. I mean, you can imagine you get fed up with after a couple of days. You're just reaching there for everything. Yeah, in fact, my for a long time, that's one thing that also we've been trying this and that. I mean, the fast guys, those record setters, Strasser, those guys go for liquid food, 100% liquid. And I tried it. I just don't. It didn't work for me. I mean, I tried the same thing that Strasser uses, Inforce. I don't know if you know, it's Swiss. Actually, Strasser uses Ensure. But no, there's the Swiss guy, the Danny Wiss, one of the guys who did it. And I tried it, and it works for me superbly for 24 hours for my records and everything. I could use it even up to 2 days. So race around Slovenia, those races, I can actually do it, and it worked for me perfectly. But in RAAM, after third day or something, I just got such a diarrhea. I don't know, just couldn't handle it anymore. So for me, I mean, like with everything, I tried different approaches in years. Like nowadays, probably Tim would tell us more about it now. Now we hear a lot of people talking about how pro cyclists nowadays go for 120 grams of sugars, whatever, carbs an hour, and that's what we tried to do years ago. I mean, I was more still calories, so I might still talk about calories, but I tried. I mean, I also tried with that, like you say, you can train your stomach for it, and I kind of tried that approach 20 years ago, and it got to a point that I couldn't go any bigger anymore. So I was stuck to my plan. Usually, that's how it settled, and that's what I still do now for the last a lot of years. 350 to 400 calories an hour, which is my plan, and which is I try to still grow. The big part of it is still liquid. So nowadays with for endurance, I do the energy unit drink, right? So that's the bulk of it. That's usually what every hour I try to drink a bottle of that stuff, and with approximately 300 calories in it. So it would be 270, 300 calories an hour. And then I add the other 100, which I try to get in. It's either bars, fruit, bananas, or those, something like that. Gels too, but yeah, not all the time. But sometimes, you're either climbing, in RAAM, you have some climbs that last 2-3 hours. So you cannot eat, try not to eat on those, and just squeeze gel and drink those sugary drinks. But you're right. I mean, after it just doesn't work. How it call your mouth. With all those drinks, even without gels, just those drinks, it just I don't know. It eats your taste just goes to garbage. It just nothing tastes good anymore. So after 3 or 4 days, you're kind of reaching, and then it's probably maybe a nutritionist wouldn't approve, but we do all sorts of things. Also, Big Mac would work if you just something. It brings the calories. It's 600 calories. So one Big Mac is good for 2 hours. So I won't say I eat it a lot. I don't eat 10 a day or something, but probably during RAAM, for sure I go for 5 or 6. And usually my crew, they're good enough to know that I kind of crave for it from time to time, and they kind of use it as my bribery, how they call it, incentive, So they say, the next time session, if you do it in 2 hours and a half, here's the prize for you. Big Mac's waiting, and it gets me going. Even shakes, the ice cream, it's also very hot. RAAM, one of the other difficult parts of RAAM is the heat, because you get to go in 40, 45 degrees Celsius. And it's just, so you fight it with, I don't know, anything. So ice cream really, really feels good. So we do some of those, I don't know, just every calorie is a good calorie and you burn it all. And you just, it's still kind of hard. So that's one of probably the hardest things for the crew, because and also, myself as a racer, I know I have to, you cannot push the pedals if you don't get the fuel. But it just so hard after a few days, it just gets harder and harder, and so you try to find solutions. So anything that tastes good, anything that gets, I don't know, pancakes, anything that gets you going, just they try to, the crew just tries to make it happen. And usually they can, the easiest is McDonald's, because McDonald's is, in every village. In USA, it's not. I know it's not healthy, but it's just something that's easy to get. Yeah.
From my perspective, it's all about calories. So that's what I was wondering. I was waiting to hear that you have like normal food as well. What about the teeth? Do you actually brush the teeth and get rid of like the saltiness, sweetness, or?
Yeah, it does. You try to. The plan is always. I do my plan, and the crew has it. So the plan is to do it 2 times. So like at home, in the evening or late afternoon and in the morning. And usually do it. You just do it on the bike. They give you the brush with the something on it, and you just do it on the bike, because you don't want to lose time. So yeah, it
not a sticky bottle, sure. It's a sticky toothbrush from the team.
Yeah. But yeah, you do it, and it helps a little bit. Also mouth water, something that cleans up your mess in mouth. We do it, and you have to stop for number 2. That's lost time, but for being usually, the guys who know how to do it try to do it on the bike, So you find the place you don't want. There's not many spectators on RAAM route anyway, but yeah, you try to find either downhill or tailwind or something, and so you can do being off the bike. But the number 2 is you just and when you have the problems with when you have diarrhea or something like that, then you lose time again, because it's 2 times, 3 times a day, and instead of 1 time. It's probably it brings me to one of the interesting things. I was always playing around and trying to find the perfect nutrition for me. And 1 year, I don't know how and why, but we just made it perfectly. It was working. It was. I could manage it mostly to the end. There was this bars from one of the Slovenian small family company that made those Turbo Katka. Maybe Tim knows about them, but nowadays they don't do it. So those some probably something we did right, because we had perfect. After I woke up, I went to number 2 1 time. It was so that was my perfect nutritionally wise, my perfect race. And I said, now we know how to do it, so next time we do it the same way. Unfortunately, next time we did this exactly the same, and after 2 days I was in such a bad state with diarrhea and everything. So it just doesn't mean if it's perfect 1 year that it's going to work the same. I don't know, the next year or the next time you try. It's just, I don't know. I don't have an explanation for that, but it's just something that you have to keep it alive. The crew has to know what are the options. Of course, they know that they have to keep you fed, because otherwise you're just going to slow down to crawl. Just one of the most important, probably after sleep or before, probably, yeah, nutrition probably is the most important aspect of RAAM on ultra cycling in large, because it's just so hard to get it perfectly, and it just it's something you need. Without it, you just slowing down. It doesn't work.
One last question from me.
Challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One last question. Like, you probably do you know how much weight you lose during? Because I imagine it's quite a lot.
I get that question a lot, and it's kind of. I'm guessing it's funny. Actually, we don't. I think only of my 10 RAAMs only once we did use a scale during, and I kind of lost the info. I don't exactly remember, but I can tell you, from the experience. I mean, my kilos going from home. Usually 2 weeks before RAAM, you go there and you kind of acclimatize and everything. So I was always going with 80 kilos around. And then after RAAM, I don't know how, but as you would probably imagine, you don't do anything. You eat, indeed, you can eat. People ask me after RAAM if you're sleeping for 40 hours. No way, because you wake up hungry. After 2 or 3 hours, so we learned that I had to have a fridge nearby, and I sleep after RAAM, which had to be full, pretty much full. And because you wake up and you're so hungry that you just eat, and so after RAAM you eat for 2-3 days. You don't do you just sit around and you try to recover. You don't do much. You just eat, and so you come home 5-6 days after RAAM. I was still at 78 kilos.
Oh, okay.
So my guess would be you lose 4 to 5, and that's with me, because I didn't exaggerate, and we were trying to make it, but it's just something you cannot keep up, because you just burn so many calories that it's just hard to keep up with it. Yeah. So I would say 3 to 4 kilos on the best of years. You lose 3 to 4 kilos. Yeah.
I guess one final question for me then, before we wrap up. If someone's to come and ask you for one piece of advice, the most important thing you've learned, not necessarily about RAAM, but about doing their first ultra endurance events, have you got anything you'd say that would be?
Only one thing.
Most important thing to take home.
Yeah, I would probably stick with nutrition. Yeah, and that's exactly what I say. I guess to people who ask me, you have to try the training, try different solutions, different things. First, try to up it, to see how much your stomach can handle. If you talk calories an hour or something like that. And then try to have A, B, C, D. How many letters do we have? Solutions. So when you start skating on solution A, just start with B, and so have more solutions for you, and just chain with it, stick with it, and so if you cannot take it in training, the nutrition or something, of course it won't work in races either. So that would be probably the most important. Especially for the shorter, people ask me how much do you need the training for sleep deprivation. You just need to try it. RAAM is, as I said, RAAM is different beast. So for those shorter races, you just need to ride in the dark. You need to get familiar with that, because it's different, and it's actually really pleasant. I love it. I used to do a lot of training in the night, because working hours used to be the normal people working hours, so from, I don't know, 8 to 4. So if I wanted to do training before and let's say stay with my kids in the afternoon, which was a lot of years that I did that, I had to go to train at 3 or 4 a.m. And it's kind of really pleasant. I mean, when you get used to it, of course you need good lights, but it's everything's empty, everything's so peaceful. I still like it from time to time, and nowadays I have a more relaxed schedule because I'm my own boss, so I can go train in the middle of the day, but still I like to ride at night. So that's one of the things you have to do before you venture into the anything that involves riding at night. You have to get accustomed to. You have to try it, and you usually, I mean, most of the people learn to love it because it's just a different experience. I like it.
Great. Well, it's been really, really interesting talking to you, Marko. Yeah, I learned, a lot about the RAAM and ultra long distance stuff in general, but it's a good take-home message, I think, for people who are interested in doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining us and sharing your experience. Like, it's really nice to hear all those stories from such some amazing races. I just can't imagine doing them myself, but I'm sure like many of our listeners would. So
yeah, thanks for having me. It's kind of I guess you can see I like talking about it. It's something that I love doing, and I love sharing my experience. So it was great talking to you. If you want, you can do it again.
Yeah, I think extend the conversation next time. Right. Thanks, Marko.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.